Hello, viewers. Welcome back. Welcome to episode 20. So, last time I had told you about Desai Bai and her shop, her grocery store, and her kids and her family. And we had also discussed Nair, the business partner that dad had. So, I just had limited understanding of that. But basically, I feel it takes a certain kind of personality to be successful in business. And I guess we, being from the farming community, we really did not have that mindset probably. I remember one thing very clearly about when they were discussing the milk business. It seems that the people who were buying the milk asked for a bribe, and dad refused to bribe them. And then they used to reject sometimes the entire stock of milk. So, like 100 liters of milk that the my parents they would wash the cows, they would wash the udders with warm water, extract the milk in very clean buckets. I don't think anyone else in that area was so clean like they were with the milk. And after all of that, the milk would just be wasted. The guys would just reject the stock. So with these kind of obstacles, and with I don't know, my dad being so innocent and naive, like I think we all are in my family. So I guess Nair was very easily able to outwit my dad or trick my dad, and we never saw a penny of our investment ever. This is what I understand. And like I said, that Nair's household was thriving and they were eating great food every day, and like they were eating a lot of the fish and the chicken and non-veg, and like my mom would try to have just enough money to buy very little groceries at one time. And sometimes it would be the nick of time, like, okay, now things are really over, now go to the shop. Once she sent Ruby cycling to the shop, and Ruby was again quite small. And I remember Ruby was cycling back home with the rice and the groceries, and then she realized she missed the turn, and then she took a sharp turn. Instead of going straight, slowing down, she was at a high speed. It was a downward slope on her cycle, and she should have just gone a little ahead, slowed down, and then turned around and come back. And she took a very sharp turn, and that was actually near the stream, so there was a dangerous slope also. And then she fell, and all the groceries scattered. So we were going through these kind of hardships, whereas the supposed business partner was doing very well for himself. So the last straw was when one day Nair just took off, like he just disappeared. He wound up the business, whatever. My dad didn't know any of that, and one day he just vanished. And probably dad didn't even know where his village address, or what are you going to do with that anyway. So that was like the last straw. Now, what happened was something had to change in our lives, right? We were pretty much on the verge of being broke. So there had to be some savior, something had to change. So my dad used to buy cattle feed from Godrej. They were supplying cattle feed, one of their divisions, the agrovet probably. So there was a guy called Dr. Anaukar, and Dr. Anaukar was, I think, a senior somewhere in that section, and dad kind of was acquainted with him. Now the thing is, they figured out that there was a position for a transport officer, like somebody who would overlook the transport section. So Dr. Anaukar told my dad that he could apply. Now the problem was they needed a graduate, and my dad had done a diploma in engineering. So then he applied anyway, and then he got a call for an interview. Now, what happens is dad needed 500 rupees at the time in the 70s to go for an interview to Bombay. So he did not have that money at the time. So he thought he could borrow from someone and return later. But then, I mean, first of all, only people like my dad would lend money. And people are smart enough not to lend, even if they have, and I don't even know if they had money. And who's going to lend 500 bucks in that kind of setup, you know? So apparently, my dad did try everywhere to get a $500 rupee loan, and there was nobody who was giving it to him. Now, poor dad, he had done his engineering and he had gotten such a good job as an army officer. He was captain, and he had all these people at his disposal, the orderlies, I think, or ardali they say, so I think it's orderly. He had all these people serving him, and I remember when my mom said that people wouldn't even believe that his salary at the time, in the 60s, uh, 60s, yeah, was 500 rupees. Like, the village people had never heard of it, and they told my Nana ji that you're bluffing, it can't be 500 rupees per month, your son-in-law's salary. Because, like, when my Nana ji was looking after his family, the pension that he used to get would be 5 rupees per month. And I still remember my mom very painfully recalling once when her sister, that entire 5 rupees note or whatever it was that she had, and she was going for grocery shopping, and she dropped the note somewhere, and then she couldn't find it. And then that whole month was so difficult for the family to, because that money, which was their monthly pension, their monthly expense, that was gone. So they were surviving like that. And then now for this man to go searching for 500 rupees and not finding it, and with the kind of background that my mom had grown up in, very, very frugal, she had lived very frugally, so she had learned to, save every penny wherever she could. And she had managed to, like, I think she'd been taught that whenever you can, just save, keep money saved, wherever you get some change back or whatever. So I remember she said that, oh, when your dad came back after checking for a loan from everywhere, he looked so defeated and he looked so sad. She's like, then I told him that I have 500 rupees, you can take that and go for your interview. So that was our, gateway to Mumbai. Now Mumbai was on the horizon. Dad went to Godrej and he gave the interview, but he did not get the position that he had applied for because he was not a graduate. He got a lower position. And poor dad, after that, he did try to graduate a few times. He tried to do a PG, but somehow it never worked through. And the story of his graduation was that while he was a forest officer, he had studied for his engineering graduation exam and all of that. And even his brother, my Ranjit uncle, had also come from Punjab for one of his exams. Like, the center was there, and like, dad was fully prepared for the exam. But then, just before the exams, he felt really sick. He had a high fever, and he couldn't appear for that graduation exam. And that incident, that falling sick just before the exam, it made such a huge difference to his life. So for the rest of his life, he was defined by being a diploma holder and not a graduate, and that affected so many things in his life. Anyway, but then what happened was that, thanks to Dr. Anaukar, at least we had a gateway to Mumbai. Mumbai was on the horizon for our family. So dad went and gave the interview, he got the job. But then now my mom had another stress. She was like, I don't want to live in a confined little apartment. She really loved living in the fields, like in the open, with an open veranda. And she just could not conceive of living, hung up, like anyone who has vast rambling properties. For them, the idea of being up somewhere, suspended on some floor, they don't like the idea of it. So it was the same with my mom, and she was very nervous about moving to the city. She was not keen on that. So then it was decided, I think, now this is just what I can understand and remember, it was decided that dad would start working in Mumbai. So he was, at that time, I don't know about now, but at that time, Godrej employees were given a house on rent on their property. So Godrej owned these vast semi-private property. They had acres and acres of land in Vikhroli East and Vikhroli West, which is a place in Bombay. And at that time, it was amazing. I don't know how it is now. So many things changed afterwards, but this time, yeah, this was the 70s, and it was a very beautiful place. And dad got the apartment on rent. The motorbike, I don't know if it was his or it was the company bike, but he had a motorbike, and he started living in Bombay. And I think on the weekends he would come back to live on the farm. And now that I think of it, that was quite dangerous when dad would be in Bombay and we would still sleep on that veranda, just us females, mom and the three girls. That is kind of dangerous. But I think mom has been pretty fearless. But then she did talk about how, the men around, she did tell from time to time where they would try to, take advantage, seeing just the woman lives here, not the husband doesn't always live here. So there were people, getting a feel for, whether they could have a fling or whether they could take advantage. And now that I think of it, we were put in really dangerous situations sometimes where, doing the back and forth between Bombay and our farm. Sometimes, like obviously, all of us couldn't go on a bike. So dad would get us to take a lift in some truck because the truckers in a truckers would keep following that route. So I remember sitting in those seats of the trucks with my mom and my sisters, and I used to marvel at the Sayadris. Those travels were the time that I fell in love with the beautiful Sayadri range, the beautiful Sayadris that you could see sitting high up in the truck, compared to a car, you're higher up in a truck, right? And just enjoying how beautiful and majestic those mountains appeared to you. So to me, no matter how beautiful the other mountain ranges, maybe there's the Himalayas or the Alps or any other ranges, to me the most beautiful mountains are the Sayadris. So this is how the Bombay journey started. And yeah, once mom recalled kind of feeling really nervous with the truck driver, and she kind of abandoned midway somewhere. She told him at a petrol pump, no, please drop us off, because she started getting really creep vibes. And that is expected. Like, I don't know how we survived unscathed all of those times, but apparently we did. So yes, what we used to do, that happened later, the back and forth between Bombay and our Thane farm. But at this point, dad had gotten a job in Bombay, so the financial stability part of our lives had started. We would see some stability after this in our lives, and I did really like the next phase, the part of living in Bombay, growing up in Vikhroli on the Godrej property. That is one of my favorite parts of my life, and I will talk more about it later in the next episode. Until then, please do subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Please do like my video, give a thumbs up if you like it, and I will see you all in the next episode. Bye, dear viewers. Bye for now.